guys hear the music in my background?
Yes.
Sounds great.
So that's the Cheers deck. I can't do anything about that one. We could meet on the deck. We could do that.
Yeah, can we go there? I would like a margarita.
We can socially distance on the deck.
Second.
Well, at least they're open and having a good time, right?
Hold on. Yes, that's affirmative.
Are there counselors over there that should be here?
Oh, we didn't look. You better look harder.
Just a reminder to everyone that we are live.
I am aware, Mr. LeBrun. Thank you. I hear Your Honor, Angelina is going to be expanding outside.
Yeah, they've got a couple. They got a couple tables they're occupied right now.
Good.
Okay. I just tried Candace and I got no response, so we'll move on. Everybody okay to move? To go? All right. So, welcome to the June 4th, 2020 electronic meeting. Welcome to the June 4th, 2020 electronic meeting of the Finance Committee. We are meeting electronically due to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic in accordance with the Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04. Please note that in accordance with the Governor's Emergency Order, we have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. Instructions are provided on our agenda and on the City Council's website at concordnh.legstar.com/calendar.aspx. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the Finance Committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting, and the public has access to listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through clicking on the following website address: us02web.zoom.us/j/83472063282. If any member of the public does not have a website access, they may dial the telephone number of 929-205-6099 and enter the web ID number of 834-7206-3282. For those of you who want to provide public testimony in a public hearing portion of this meeting, and you are connected to the Zoom website, you may click on the raised hand icon, and the attendee section will make the request. When the time is appropriate, you'll be recognized by me, and you can provide your testimony. For members of the public who are participating by phone, you may dial *9 to alert me that you want to testify. We will not be using the chat function in this Zoom for this meeting. Please note that testimony is only allowed for the agenda items that have been scheduled for the public hearing, and the public participation is not authorized for any other items on the agenda. If anyone has a problem accessing this meeting, please call 603-230-4619 or send an email to citycouncilmeeting@concordnh.gov. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. Mr. LeBrun.
Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard. Mayor Boulay.
Here. I am present in my office and no one is here.
Councilor Champlin.
I am present at my home, and Susan Champlin or Madeline Champlin may pass through the room.
Councilor Fennessy.
I am here. I am outside. I'll be in my house in just a minute.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
I am here. I am in my house with my children who are largely unattended, so we'll see how this goes.
Councilor Hatfield.
I'm here in my home in a room by myself.
Councilor Keach.
Here, home alone.
Counselor Kennison.
Here, I'm home and no one is here except me.
Counselor Kretovic.
I am here. My husband and my son are largely unattended, and they may need help also. It's Bill and Jack.
Counselor Mattson.
I'm here. I am home and alone in this room.
Counselor Nyan.
Present, at home, alone.
Counselor Pierce.
I'm present at home alone.
Counselor Rice Hawkins.
She will be here but late.
Counselor Todd.
Here at home, alone in this room.
Counselor Werner.
Here and alone in this room. Some of us seem to be forlorn that we're alone.
Counselor Bouchard.
Here, home, and alone in the room.
14 present and 1
Okay, thank you so much. You all should have received the May 28th minutes of the Finance Committee. Are we ready to make a motion on those, to approve those?
I move approval of the Finance Committee minutes.
I
Also
second.
Kretovic.
Okay, motion.
We all
by
second.
Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilor Kretovic. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. LeBrun, could you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Counselor Champlin.
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy.
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Counselor Hatfield.
Yes.
Counselor Keach.
That was a yes.
Counselor Kennison.
Yes.
Counselor Kretovic.
Yes.
Counselor Mattson.
Yes.
Counselor Nyan.
Yes.
Counselor Pierce.
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins. Counselor Todd.
Yes.
Counselor Werner.
Yes.
13 yes. 14 yes, excuse me.
Thank you very much. With that, the motion is adopted. That takes us to our Finance Committee work session. And so if everybody doesn't mind, I was going to kick it off and then we can open up to see where everybody's thoughts are. Is that all right? So for those of you who have been with me for a while, and for those of you who have watched city government, typically at this time, what I've tried to do in the past is during all the presentations, I generally take notes of everyone's questions and things that people are interested in and things that I've identified that might be worthwhile discussing. And I typically put together a list of items that to either add or subtract, and I typically will try to balance it out, and that's the approach we've taken. In the past, we've reduced the tax rate, we've made changes. I don't know. This is the first time it's been different. I have but one change that I would like for the consideration of you all. There are a lot of things that I have identified that I would think need to be addressed, and but unfortunately, I think due to the world we're living in at this moment and the uncertainty, I just don't think it's fair to move forward with some of those items. And I also, as we've talked about since the very beginning, we're more than likely going to be revisiting this budget probably in July when we see what the taxes which come in on the 1st. We're probably going to revisit in October. We're probably going to revisit the beginning of the year as we see how things go. So I guess this is the first budget that I've really looked at differently, that it's going to be a much more active living document for the council to really engage with throughout the year. Typically, once we vote, we've set our priorities, we've set our agenda, and we've sent the manager and his team off and expecting them to carry out where we were. This year, I think there's so many question marks. I think we just need to, I'm trying to be a little more cautious. But I will tell you, I'll give you a few for instances. I would have loved to add a police officer. I think it's the community. It's important that we add at this particular time. I was very impressed with the police department in the sense that they've changed some of their hiring practices, and we've been able to get more people into police standards and training classes and such. But to have a full complement, I think is important. And given we've seen some retirements and other losses that, and you look at the caseloads, I think that's worthy of a discussion at this point. I mentioned during the budget session that I think we're going to have to look at sometime in the near future, looking at another ambulance based on caseloads that we're seeing. So that's public safety. I think that I'd like to just kind of remind everybody that we had a really, really fruitful discussion at the beginning of the year when we talked about our council priorities. And one of the things that we asked the manager to do was come in to really beef up our efforts around economic development and look to a new position around more of a project manager type or that type of job description. And I know the manager referenced it earlier in his presentation that he was unable to do it. But I think as we are going to eventually come out of this, we're going to have to put a lot of effort into marketing our city, making sure we are putting together deals that will expand our tax base and such. So although it didn't get funded, and I'm not proposing funding it at this time, I think that's one of the things I really want to continue to leave as a high priority to expand the tax base when we can. So there are other things like that. Obviously, we're probably going to need to talk about parking at some time, like we have in the past, but we can revisit those. So I'm not proposing any of those changes. I'm just trying to give you a flavor for some of the things that I heard during the budget. The one change that I would like the council to consider before we go into any kind of tentative vote or work session and we open it up for everybody to talk is I made a comment, and I think and I've over the years, many of you have made the exact same reference to me of how important the community television is and how many of our community members have used Concord TV as a way to connect to government, connect to the community, connect to our educational system. But as you know, as more and more people become tech savvy and they've moved away from traditional cable, the franchise fees has gone down. And I think we need to continue to be supportive of that. I think that's some of the most important way we get our meetings out there, and even whether it's the planning board, the zoning board, they're all important for making sure we keep an informed community. And so tonight, what I was hoping to do is to move to increase the general overhead expense budget, the special programs for the Concord Community Television, by $57,110, and then also at the same time increase the general overhead revenue budget for the cable TV franchise by the exact same amount of money, $57,110. So the effect is there'll be no effect on the tax rate. Now, some of you may wonder, well, I just said we're moving away from cable. What are you doing increasing the fee? Well, I think what talking to our finance director and the manager, we're seeing with more and more people staying home, they actually tapped into cable television. So I think there is the leeway this year to be able to increase that and make those revenues and not see any hit on the tax rate. And it will continue to be a 0% tax rate increase. So that is the only thing that I think I would suggest we do tonight. And as well as I'd like to make sure that if we all agree, direct the manager to come up with a permanent solution to somehow fund it so we don't run into this every year. And with that, I will stop, and I encourage everyone else who would like to share. Okay, come on. None of you are shy. Councilor Champlin.
It was broken up. Was that a Councilor Champlin, Your Honor?
Yep, and then Councilor Kretovic.
All right, thank you. I would just like to mention that there was a recommendation from the Parking Committee to reassign funds that we had bonded for the Store Street Garage, reassign part of those funds in order to to replace the kiosks and meters in the core downtown. As a chairman of the parking committee, I just want to put that back on the table. It was a recommendation. It was not a unanimous recommendation. Councilor Fennessy felt otherwise. The other members of the committee present at that meeting felt that it was important, as we try to bring the downtown back, to have reliable meters. And many of the meters, as you know, Your Honor, that we're talking about have been in place for a decade or decades, depending. And the equipment is tired, it's difficult to repair, and it's difficult to repair and make sure that it stays fixed. And there was concern expressed at that meeting that this was creating a negative downtown experience. And since customer experience is important for our downtown, the majority of the committee recommended that reallocation of funds. And I think the feeling was that some of the safety changes and some of the safety improvements probably still could be made with the remaining funds in the Store Street garage, and some of the maintenance needs could be met despite diverting about $850,000 of the budgeted or the bonded funds to the parking meters. And thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilor Cravick?
Thank you, Your Honor. I very much appreciate your words at the beginning. When I've been reviewing this budget over the past several weeks, probably the most important words that were coming to mind was adaptable and agile, for how we need to be over the next 12 months of this next fiscal year, not knowing how things are going to be impacted overall. Some notes that I had taken were the motor vehicle registrations, for the council to pay attention to those revenues as they come in. Are we going to hit the $7 million that is budgeted? The rooms and meals tax, of course, whatever the state does on that side to monitor. Tax collection rate, it has a goal of 98%, but we did hear from our Deputy Director of Finance that there is concerns about what that revenue will look like over the coming months. And of course, when we look at revenue, that also means we have to look at expenses. One of the council goals that we have is to expand more community events. Because of this, we're not going to be doing the 4th of July events. A question for the city manager would be, we have $30,000 in our budget for In Town Concord, which supports their events. They are putting market days off until August, which is a reasonable responsibility that they should be doing. But what happens if they're not going to do that event? One of the other events that they have later on, they're postponing until February. We don't receive the deeper detail on the grant request. Is their request for event funding? And if so, what happens if they don't carry through these events? That would be for you, Mr. City Manager, if you know.
Manager?
So if they weren't going to carry through with the events, then we wouldn't turn over the money.
Okay.
In my mind, I think what we could do is we could continue to hold that until such time as the money's needed, and just be in communication with folks, and then make a decision whether or not that's something we want to do. I think they would look forward to doing something, but the amount is 30. If I remember correctly, it's 30,000.
That is correct.
$30,000, and that really was to help put on those events. And some of it, if you remember, Council, you actually increased that number from 20 to 30, and 10 of that was to cover any type of service costs that we provided to, for police and fire and whatnot to provide that. So there'd be no sense of providing those dollars only and to not have them expend, because those are really supposed to come back to the city. So we would just hold those dollars and have a conversation, and as things developed, I could clue you in, so to speak, and make sure everybody's okay moving forward.
Again, if we're looking at an adaptable and agile fiscal year that's coming ahead, to take the approach where we leave dollars like that budgeted, but we monitor what's actually going to happen, I fully support that. I did also note that the 2021 goals for our Human Resource Department was post-pandemic recovery, and looking at procedural modifications based on lessons learned. It is one of the reasons why I was talking about the leaf collection program. When we have 7 people in such close proximity, it is something that we need to be aware of. And while just like other members of the council, I'm not interested in changing the program and impacting the bottom line to the services of our city. But we could take this time over the next couple of months before the leaf collection actually happens to review that process and see if there's a safer way to put our city staff that are carrying out this task in a better position. We don't know what the pandemic is going to look like in October, but we can certainly look at the process by which we collect leaves in the fall and make it safer for our city staff as part of that lessons learned and modifications potentially needed. That covers just about everything I had. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize Council Warner next, but I just, before we do, if you don't mind, Ms. LeBrun, could you just comment on the use of the parking fund bonds for other purposes?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. We, when the question came up from the parking committee, we did reach out to our bond counsel to talk about repurposing of those funds. And there are really two issues here that we have to pay attention to that would probably technically not allow us to repurpose the funds from the garage to meters. The first one is that the garage project is not complete. But probably the more difficult one to overcome would be that we bonded that money for the garage project in a 20-year bond, and the meter would be a 7 to 10-year life, and we can't repurpose funds according to the regulations, the state regulations and the federal regulations, for a purpose that would be less than the number of years that the funds were bonded for originally. So we'd be going from 20 to 10 or 7, which would not be allowed under the regulations. If we were going the other way, we could do it, but we can't do it for that purpose. So I'd be glad to work with Mr. Walsh and the parking committee to try to find other solutions that, if there's still something that needs to be accomplished. But for those particular funds, we wouldn't be able to repurpose them for this purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Wall and Mr. LeBrun.
Council Warner?
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to thank you for bringing forward the Concord TV discussion, because I do think we have the ability to support a very important service, particularly in this time. And, it is a form of journalism. A lot of folks in our community use it and are trained on how to be citizen journalists in essence. And I think that's all to our benefit. So I just want to say I appreciate your comments on that, and certainly very supportive.
Okay, thank you very much. Council Hatfield?
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate your opening remarks, and I agree that we are going to need to be particularly nimble in the coming year. I wanted to comment on just a couple of things. One is disappointment that we're not able to add a sustainability manager, but I completely understand why. I do think that little ironically, that person will pay for themselves over time, but hopefully that's something that we can return to in the future. Echoing Councillor Kretovik's comments about leaves, I think we should be revisiting that as fall approaches, and perhaps it's something that we need to contract out to not overburden our own staff. But we definitely, I think there's an expectation that service will be provided, and it's very important for folks living downtown as well as others. So I'm happy to help with that. A question, and I also agree completely with Concord TV. I won't repeat, but I think Councillor Warner's comments were well said. Wanted to ask, and I don't need an answer now, but at some point I'd like to talk about the purple bag pause, just given the, by my calculations, $138,000 a month roughly that's been costing us by the pause of that program. I'd like to talk about at the appropriate time when we'll transition back out to requiring them. And then finally, in this time with what's going on in our country, I want to make sure that our police department and all of our safety folks feel like they have the resources that they need. And I know that our Public Safety Committee very ably oversees those issues and provides advice to us. But I did just want to mention that we're in a very unique time when our police and other folks are challenged in big ways. And I think we've all said how proud we are of how our police has responded recently. And I just want to note that I stand ready to help them with any kind of training or additional assistance that they need as issues arise. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody's hand raised right this second. So let me just add this. So I've been thinking a lot about purple bags as well. Particularly when I see, I'm still using my purple bag and my neighbors down the street are putting bags and bags out. But the manager and I were on a call with the governor today, and tomorrow he's going to be talking about restaurants and wedding venues. He also told us that he is going to be looking at coming into an end of the stay-at-home order. And with the coming to the end of the stay-at-home order, I think it's probably a good moment in time where we could discuss ending the paid to go back to the purple bags, because at that point it'll be the green light for people can safely go shopping, well, with the necessary protections and such, but they can leave their home and address some of the concerns that we had originally heard and I thought we were sensitive to, and that was people they weren't able to go to the grocery store, they were worried about their health and such. So with the relaxation of the eventually removal of the stay at home, I think it might be a good time to do that. And supposedly he's supposed to do that relatively soon. And if Mr. Manager, if I mischaracterized that, please help me.
No, you said exactly what he said.
Okay. Councilor Keach, you had your hand raised?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. First, I want to acknowledge the good job the manager's done over actually the past 10 years being conservative and responsible for the budget. And here we are now, 10 years later, needing an extra $1 million and we have it. So it's more of a comment. I would hope that the other side of the tablet, the school board, accepts the almost $1 million that was announced today as a way to mitigate their potential tax increase and also make the same hard decisions that we've made. And I don't want to pit both boards against each other, but I think it's important to point out, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I have Councilor Todd. I'm sorry, Councilor Kennison, we'll get right back to you, but Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, just following up on Councilor Keach's comment, and as I hear him say it, I think that one of the important considerations for me in deciding, for example, about the suspension of the purple bag program temporarily was that it was really the right thing to do for folks for all the reasons that you mentioned, Your Honor. But also, I think as we go out of we go into a new phase of opening up, as we call it, there are still people out there who are going to be suffering. We'll want to maintain our fingers on the pulse of the local unemployment rates, for example, and determine who out there needs help and needs services and needs aid. And I think that all the prior comments about being nimble and your comments about us revisiting the budget frequently are going to be are taken to heart, and they're going to be very, very important going forward, so that we can not only maintain services as we need to for the city and give them the services, give residents the services they expect, but also be really mindful and watchful of the pain that they may be under right now financially. So with that, I just would like to add one other item in the chorus here of agreement about Concord TV. I'm fully supportive of your concepts on that, and also I'm fully supportive of the very talented, qualified staff that currently exists at Concord TV. These are people who are really, importantly, vested in the community. And how do we know that? All you have to do is watch the work product, watch the videos that they create, and you can tell. And I think that's another extremely important part of the service that they provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kennison.
Thank you. I just want to get on the purple bag bandwagon. I do think, hopefully we can discuss this at the council meeting on Monday night. I think, of course, we did the right thing, but I think everybody's garage, attic, and basements have been cleaned out by now. Sometimes I see 10 to 15 huge bags out. So I think for the most part, Concord residents have been very responsible with this, but occasionally you see the mountains of material that's being put out. That's it.
Okay. Anyone else like to jump in? Council 9?
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been unusually quiet during this budget season, primarily because of the excellent job that the manager has done, bringing a 0% tax increase back to the city. I really appreciate the comments that you've made earlier with regard to certainly community television. There's been a lot of discussion about the purple trash bags, leaf collection, all at times been contentious issues over the years. They're also very important issues. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee has a large agenda ahead of it over the next coming year. So I hope, Director Chesley, you can set something up in the short term. I guess my general comment about the budget is I do believe this is going to be the first of a couple tough budgets that the city is going to have to deal with. You know, that being said, I'd love to find additional savings somewhere to potentially have reserves available for next year if we need them. So it's a very strong budget. It's a very aggressive budget. I'd love to find additional savings. I'll spend some time looking at the budget in more detail between now and final vote. But again, I want to thank everybody for their involvement. The questions this year have been particularly thoughtful, and it leads to great discussion and a better budget for the city. So thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you. Council Fennessy?
Thank you, and I sort of echo some of the statements already made. I want to thank the manager for, I think, was very well done with the budget. I think my concerns are similar to concerns other people have about whether or not we're going to be able to generate the same sort of revenue that's projected in the budget. But I have confidence that if we're touching this budget again in July and October, then perhaps we can mitigate any potential deficits that might be developing. I want to thank Mr. LeBrun for doing the research with bond counsel. That's something that I'm familiar with prior budgets and prior boards that I served on, that issue about making sure you use the bond funds for similarly timed projects. So I think that was very well done. And I think I'm good with what we've got so far. I agree with Councilor Nye, and I'm going to be looking to see if there's any other potential savings we could be looking for, but I'm pretty comfortable with the budget at this point.
Thank you. Councilor Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't repeat, but I will agree with everything that I've heard so far. I too, we look at revenues very closely. At our last meeting, I sort of delved into the uncollectibles on parking, and I'm still working on that, and would like to see something happen with that. We do look at revenues, but I do think we certainly need to keep an eye on our expenses. That's the other side of the equation. And I look forward to working with the city manager and the rest of you on finding a way that are we getting the biggest bang for our taxpayers' dollars. So I'll leave it at that. And I too want to thank everyone for their help.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so seeing none, this time we can open up a public hearing on the tentative budget. And Mr. LeBrun, do you want to, I can read it, I guess. So at this time, we'll open up the public hearing on all of the city's fiscal year 2021 budgets, including the general fund, special revenue funds, enterprise funds, debt service funds, de minimis accounts, capital projects, and sewer rate change. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to testify? Looks like Mr. Hardy would like to testify. Could you unmute him, please?
Can everybody hear me over there? Am I
We
too
can hear
loud,
you.
too quiet?
Welcome, Mr. Hardy. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I just wanted to just pop in real quick and just for anyone who hasn't met me before, I'm Josh Hardy, Executive Director. This feels a lot different than sitting in council chambers, I'm sure. But I wanted to just tell you all how much appreciated your hard work is and your dedication to the city, and it certainly is appreciated. And I also wanted to thank you for some of the kind words about Concord TV. I think we're in a perfect position where we have the best staff I think we've ever had right now. We have a terrific board. We have a lot of momentum, and we enjoy doing what we do because community media matters. And I appreciate all of you recognizing the value in that. And I look forward to discussing long-term financial discussions and talking about that further. Our 5-year agreement with the City of Concord and the school district expires next year. So we're coming into the last fiscal year of that. And so certainly we will wholeheartedly and openly have those conversations, because it's not just something happening here in Concord, it's a nationwide issue. If we lose community media and if we lose local media, that's not just a problem for Concord, that is a nationwide issue. So I'll let you guys go and not drag on too much, but I can also answer any questions while I'm here or allow you to keep going with your meeting. But again, just thank you for recognizing the value of community media. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Does anybody have questions, Ms. Hardy? Okay, thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you to your staff. Have a great night. Do you have any? I don't see any other hands raised. We do have one call-in listener. Mr. LeBrun, did they activate their line?
I do not see any other hands raised or the call either.
Okay, I want to just give it a few seconds here. Okay, we'll wait. We have Mr. Jakes.
Can you hear me now?
Mr. Jakes, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to pop in for a second also and just thank you for all the work you all are doing. Let you know that we're going to try to, we are opening up this coming Monday for childcare and also for a very modified summer program. Staffing has been the issue because it's going to take a lot more staffing. And what we presented to the city prior to COVID has all changed. We'll just keep trying to do the best we can at helping the families in the Concord area. Again, thank you for all your work that you've been doing through all this COVID too.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, Mr. Jakes?
I do. This is Councilor Pierce. Mr. Jakes, with whom are you? I'm sorry, I don't know you.
I'm sorry. I'm Rick Jakes of the Pinnacle Community Center. I'm the executive director.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Did I miss anybody? Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming and joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I think the city manager wants to say something.
I'm sorry. I'm so focused on trying to see if there's any attendees. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council Champlin. Just to note, all of you should have received an email we received from Mr. Roy Schweiker. So just that'll become part of the permanent record. Just so the public knows.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Mr. LeBrun, do you have anybody? I don't have anybody else.
I do not see any other hands up here.
Okay. Then at this time, we'll close the public hearing on the tentative budget. Do we have any tentative motions? How about this one? I'm going to motion to increase the general overhead expense budget, special programs for Concord Community Television by $57,110, and increase the general overhead revenue budget for cable TV franchise by $57,110. Somebody like to make
Mattson moves approval.
Council Mattson moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Council Kennison moves seconds. Okay, so with that, is there any discussion or any further discussion? Okay, Mr. LeBrun, could you call the roll on this tentative approval?
Councilor Mattson.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Nyan.
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Pierce.
Yes.
Councilor Rice Hawkins. Councilor Todd.
Yes.
Councilor Werner.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Myself and Alana Morissette outside to vote yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councilor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councilor Keach.
Yes, with my friends from Hermanos.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So what we have now is a tentative budget, which has been recommended by the council. We have our final public hearing on the 15th, Monday the 15th, right? And that meeting will be at 7 o'clock because we will be acting as the city council that night, not the finance committee. So that's at 7 o'clock. And again, I want to really emphasize that this is another opportunity for the public to come to talk about any portion of the budget they wish, any changes they'd like to see. And I would remind any counselor, just because we had this discussion tonight and we took a kind of a tentative vote with that one change, if something happens over the course of the week or so, and you come up with an idea and something you think needs to be addressed, I encourage you to bring it forward then if you wish. I think it's helpful if you are going to do something like that to just kind of let people know beforehand. That's what the purpose of tonight is, to make sure the public knows if there's any real kind of big changes so that they have the benefit of if they want to testify on the 15th. So that's it for me. I have Councilor Keach, your hands up. What do you have?
Yes, sorry. Quick question, Your Honor. Do you expect that meeting will be remote, as this one was?
The 15th.
The next one?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
We meet as the city council, a regular meeting on June 8th, Monday, June 8th, next Monday. That's a traditional monthly meeting. And then the 15th will be to address the budget. I do have one other question that I'd like for you to consider. Next Wednesday or Thursday, which I believe are the 10th or the 11th, either one of those dates work for folks to have a non-public session to review the manager's evaluation? Either one of those dates work for anybody?
What were the dates again, Your Honor?
I was just looking out to next week, and I was looking at Wednesday or Thursday.
It is the 10th and the 11th of June, Your Honor.
I could do the 10th, but not the 11th.
Same for me.
Either of those dates work for me, Your Honor.
And I'm available on the 11th, but not the 10th.
Okay.
I can do either.
Hey.
Your Honor, perhaps maybe we could meet Monday after our regular scheduled meeting.
Just a question, what time? Because I have a meeting at 7 p.m. on the 11th, but I could meet earlier if you were thinking earlier.
Well, I really want to try to have everybody there as possible. So it sounds like we're missing people either day. What do people think about after the regular scheduled meeting on Monday, June 8th?
Works for me.
Sure, we're already committed.
Sure.
Councilor Grady Sexton, how do you feel about it?
I mean, are people going to sing to us?
They better.
They would.
Whoa.
Of course we will.
I want them singing loud and clear. No mass. I want full range.
So doable.
Fair.
Okay, so then we will plan on to have a non-public for purpose of discussing the matters evaluation following the, or do you want to do before or after the?
Before.
Can we do it before?
Mr. Manager?
You have a non-public session scheduled before already for property acquisition items.
I guess after.
We'll do it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything?
No, sir.
I just want you to know that I can't thank you all enough to let me spend my birthday with you all.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Not today, the 8th.
Cake. All right.
Okay, sorry.
We'll prepare accordingly.
A virtual cake.
There you go. Thanks. All
Will
right.
you be wearing party hats at that meeting, Your Honor?
I expect them.
Requested, not required.
I just wanted to thank the council for their participation in the city manager's evaluations. We asked that everything be done at a certain time, and we were almost 100%. And you know what? That was pretty darn good because we were not that far behind. Thank you so much for all your efforts. We really appreciate it on behalf of the whole committee.
Thank you. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Made and seconded. Mr. LeBron, can you call the roll, please?
Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Fennessy.
Z.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councilor Hatfield.
Yeah.
Councilor Keach.
Yes.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councilor Matheson.
Yes.
Councilor Nyan.
Yes.
Councilor Pierce.
Yes.
Councilor Rice Hawkins. Councilor Todd.
Yes.
Councilor Werner.
Aye.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes. Okay, with that,
Motion passes.
we stand adjourned. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we'll see y'all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.